Well, election season is upon us, and people kind of know who they're voting for governor. At least I do. But a lot of people ask me, what about the judges? Judges are hard because not a lot of people know who they are. They don't know these candidates. They don't know much about them. And we want to help you with that today. If you live in the Riverside County, very important that we put good, smart, intelligent people, dare I say, people with some common sense. They're in that position of judge. And we have somebody today that is just that. We've got Michelle Paradise with us. Please say hello to her. Michelle, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're really glad that you're running. You've got some great endorsements. You want to tell my audience who you are and some of the people that are supporting you?
Well, my name is Michelle Paradise, and I'm running for Judicial Seat 10, which is actually a county-wide seat. So it's not a region, not a district. It is anywhere in the county that I would be sitting. As far as who's endorsing me, I've been blessed in that I have endorsements from the majority of the judicial officers sitting in Riverside County, almost all the elected officials in Riverside County, the Board of Supervisors, mayors, city council members. I have it from the defense, from the prosecution, Mike Kestrin, Chad Bianco, Calvert, Wallace, Assemblywoman Leticia Castillo. I also have the public defense side of it with your most popular defense attorneys, and that being Steve Harmon, our public defender, Virginia Blumenthal, Paul Gretsch, Pete Scorlisi, Pete Morielli. So the big names that I've actually done trials with and against, they've all endorsed me, as well as, like I said, the majority of the judicial officers in the county.
That is outstanding. One thing I know is people want judges that are both compassionate and committed to the law. How are you, should you get elected, we really hope you do. How are you going to balance mercy with accountability when you're making difficult decisions?
Well, to be quite honest, I started public service in 1986. So I started as a 911 emergency dispatcher. So when you're answering those phones, you're not asking for political affiliation. You're not asking for anything other than how can I help you? And that comes from a place of wanting to give back and to show compassion towards others and to be there at the worst moment of their lives, to be quite honest. And so I did that for 8 years, then went on to being a prosecutor. There's much more to being a prosecutor than just being an advocate. You are actually there to seek the truth. You're not there to get convictions. You're there to seek the truth and apply the law and have compassion when it's appropriate, to show mercy when it's appropriate, but also to show or hold people accountable when it's appropriate. It much depends on the type of crime, your history, your evidence of remorse or lack of remorse. There's a lot of factors that go into play. And I will say that all my experience has been using and utilizing each of those attributes. I've dismissed cases because they weren't guilty, to be honest, or there wasn't enough evidence to show guilt, or there's a doubt in the mind. That's the appropriate thing to do. I've also convicted people of homicide where, unfortunately, because the law does hold them accountable to that crime, sometimes there's factors involved that they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. It didn't actually do the deed. Those are times that you might need to show a little more compassion. So I've done over 100 jury trials. I've touched thousands and thousands of cases. So there's nothing I probably haven't seen or touched, and have always used not just the law, but a component of compassion too when reviewing those cases.
That's outstanding. So you definitely have the experience needed to take on a role such as judge. When you look at our community right now, there is no doubt we're seeing a rise in crime. We're seeing a rise in addictions. We're seeing a rise in family instability. One of the things I've been following, obviously, Chad Bianco's campaign very closely. We talk about the homeless problem in California, and he says we don't have a homeless problem. We have a drug-induced psychosis problem, a mental illness problem. When you look at your role as judge, do you believe that the court plays a role in helping to restore people's lives and not just punish bad behavior?
100%. And that's kind of what I was speaking about before, as far as having compassion. Each case is going to be individual. Each case is different, even though their facts may seem similar. You've got a homeless person who's abuses alcohol and steals in order to feed themselves, etc. Their background, their willingness to receive help is what's going to make the difference. Are they willing to receive the help? If they are, and the case is appropriate, then the court does have a role in ensuring that happens. Oftentimes they don't want help. And it just depends on what discretion is allowed by a judicial officer in that particular sentencing scheme of whatever their crime might be. But, judges have to be very careful about discussing particulars of cases and legislation. We can't speculate about how we would rule on things, but in general, I can assure you that every case would be treated individually and with open eyes and an open heart, but always following the law, always.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I've noticed, I talk to a lot of people, especially when it comes to election time. We talk about judges, and what I've found is most people don't really know what a judge does on a day-to-day basis. Can you explain to my audience what that is and how your values and your experience will shape the way you rule from the bench?
So it's going to depend on what your assignment is and what your day-to-day job is. So there's so many different areas of law. And when we go to law school, they teach us just a little bit about everything. And then you take this bar exam and you don't even know what they're going to test you on. So you don't become an expert in anything until you actually practice it. And so I could be in criminal, I could be in civil, I could be in family, I could be in juvenile. It's just, there's a gamut of different things. But on a day-to-day, you probably have a calendar that you're going to hear cases. You might have a trial calendar, but there's always prep, whether you're prepping for the trial or whether you're prepping for a calendar so that you're prepared when each case comes before you. A new judge, especially a new judge in a new area of law, is going to be spending a lot of time studying that law and learning it. As far as perspective, it's going to be the same kind of thing. You have to go in being able to listen to everyone, give everyone a voice, be respectful, demand respect back for everyone in the courtroom. Everyone should be treated with dignity. But, I will say that since 1986, being a 911 dispatcher, I was forced to have to listen and to have to listen carefully and to diagnose a situation sometimes quickly and make decisions quickly. But always with the intent of getting the necessary facts, the true facts, in order to get to the right resolution. And even though answering a 911 call is so different than sitting as a judge and gathering the facts and trying to reach, to the right conclusion based on the law, it's not that much different as far as utilizing the talents of being able to listen and diagnose and resolve the problem.
Yeah, no, my daughter was a dispatcher. I know what you're talking about. There's a tremendous amount of pressure on 911 dispatchers. You have to be thinking on your feet. You got to make very quick decisions, and these are, affect people's lives. So I get that. One of the things that we found also is trust in our public institutions have declined across our country. As judge, how would you work to rebuild back that trust?
Trust is everything. Public trust is everything. And I understand, even as an attorney for 25 years, being in front of every kind of judge you can imagine as far as temperament, whether or not there's an agenda, result-driven outcomes, some of the best legal minds I've ever seen, I've been in front of and experienced. So I have personally experienced the best judges you can imagine, what I would want to model myself after. But I've also seen the other side where your judge is falling asleep. You think the rulings are based on a flip of a coin. They're result driven. I've experienced both sides. I can assure you, I don't want to be on this. I'm not going to be one of those that someone doesn't want to appear in front of because they're not listening or they're just guessing at what the answer is. That's not me. That's never been me. It never will be me. I'll be the hardest working judge. I'm the hardest working person anywhere I go, just because I can't have it any other way. But I have no doubt that I personally can earn the trust of everyone that comes in my courtroom, because I'm going to show them that they can trust me. And that's the only thing each of us can do, is earn the trust of those that interact with us.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this: as a candidate for judge, what is there a defining moment that you could think of that prepared you for a responsibility like this?
A defining moment. I'm going to share something, and it didn't necessarily prepare me to be a judge, but there was a defining point in my life that knew that I had to give back and serve, and that's actually going to go back to my childhood. And I did come from a very abusive home and wasn't sure I was going to survive it, but I do have a deep faith, and I prayed every night. I prayed that if I survived my childhood, that I would serve. I almost made like a bargain with God, you let me get through this, and I promise I will not disappoint you. I will give back. And so as soon as I turned 18, I left my family home, came out to California, and immediately looked for a job that I could give back. And that's when I became a 911 dispatcher. I was 20 years old when I got that job. I think I was the youngest person that the department had ever hired. And no one thought I was gonna make it. And most people, as you know, if your daughter is a dispatcher, it's a lot different now than it was in the 80s, but most people didn't make it past the first 6 months. We didn't have a lot of the nice tools, and I've been in dispatch centers now, so they've got some pretty cool tools now. But I would have to say that is when I knew I had to do something to give back, and it felt good to give back. Nobody's calling and saying thank you to your 911 dispatcher. Nobody's doing that.
Right. Yeah.
So that has to be an inner thing. Your reward system has to be within yourself, and knowing that you've done something right, something good for so many other people. That is what fed my soul, and that's what continues to feed my soul. And so what avenues that took me in through life is much dependent on the opportunities that came to me. And being a judge, that opportunity came to me 3 times. One time was in 2022 when there were some openings for judicial seats, and I was going to do it. I spoke to Mike Hestrin. I was his assistant district attorney. He was my DA. And I decided to hold off because he was going through his own election, and I wanted to help him. So I stayed. And then in 2020, and then in 23, so we got him reelected. 2023 comes, the assistant county executive officer asked me to come over to the county and run the public safety portfolio. So I committed to do that for 3 years. But then in 2024, another seat came up. And I almost did it, but I had a promise to Jeff Van Wagenen that I would do this job for 3 years. And that was in 2023. So I passed it up. When this opportunity came up, it was right when at the exact same, I had just announced my retirement. I had done my 3 years, and I was going to wait till the budget was over and then retire this June. And in late January, I found out about this seat. So the opportunity came up. The judges reached out to me, said, Michelle, you've got to do this. We need you on the bench. And it went from there.
That's awesome. So yeah, like I said, it seems like God is opening the door for you, that you're definitely the right person for this job. You're going to be out at 412 Church coming up Sunday, the 24th. So people that are listening, they want to come and meet you. You're going to be there. You'll have a table out front and they can get to know you a little bit better. Like I said, the candidate for judge is one that most people are like, I don't even know who this is. How do I get to know them? So this is a good way for people to get to know you, coming out to 412 Church on the 24th, and you'll be at all 4 services. And like I said, you'll have a table out front. Really looking forward to that. How is it that people can connect with you, that if they want to support your campaign, help you out? How can they get to know you better?
All right. So I am very active on social media. Well, I don't have Twitter though. Or X, that's what they call it.
X, whatever they call it now.
All right. But I do have Facebook and Instagram, Michelle Paradise for Judge. And I also have a website, and that is Michelle at paradiseforjudge.com. So they can learn all kinds of stuff from me. And I post daily on the social media. So you'll see, anybody that looks on there is going to see I am out every single day meeting people. And I get exactly what you just said. I've never met a judge before. I've never met someone that's running for judge. I don't know anything about them. They're so excited to chat with you. So I'm out every day.
That's awesome. Well, looking forward to having you out at 412 Church. And I want to thank you so much for joining us. It's been great getting to know you. And I'm sure that my audience is happy to get to know you better as well. Elections are just around the corner, June 12th. If you guys have not registered to vote, make sure you do that. If you're not going to vote for Chad Bianco or Michelle Paradise, just don't even bother registering. Just joking. But hey, listen, want to ask you, if you like this video, share it out with your friends, your family, your neighbors. Like I said, it's so important to get to know who these candidates are, to be an informed voter. So very important, especially in the constitutional republic we live in. Also, if you would, head over to ourwatch.com, subscribe, become one of our watchmen. We truly appreciate that. Until next time, we'll see you right here on Our Watch with Tim Thompson.